Welcome to the WorldWire Update. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon for more updates and thrilling short scenes. And so, it happened. Again. The city that never truly sleeps, especially when history is about to repeat itself, braced for another spectacle. Donald Trump descended upon the United Kingdom for a second state visit, September 30th, 2025. The world watched as the familiar blue and white jet touched down, signaling the start of another unpredictable chapter in US-UK relations. London's air was thick with dread, not excitement. The mood was unmistakable. An anxious energy pulsed through the city, as if everyone was holding their breath. This wasn't just another diplomatic trip. It was the international equivalent of your embarrassing uncle showing up to a wedding he wasn't invited to. Only this time, the whole world was watching, and the stakes were much higher. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, desperate for a win, had extended the invitation, hoping for a big US-UK trade deal. For Starmer, this was a gamble, one that could define his leadership, for better or worse. The first Trump visit was a circus, giant baby blimp, protests, and protocol disasters. So a sequel was a bold, if baffling, choice. The British public groaned, memories of chaos still fresh, and wondered what new drama awaited. Activists dusted off protest signs, ready to make their voices heard once more, determined not to let history repeat itself without resistance. And social media exploded with memes, jokes, and biting commentary, as the internet did what it does best, turning anxiety into viral content. The UK, still reeling from Brexit, needed a trade deal, and Trump was the man to get it from. The stakes were enormous, and the pressure on both sides was palpable. The government's plan? Dazzle Trump with royal pageantry, and hope he'd sign a deal before demanding Big Ben be renamed Trump Tower. Every detail was meticulously planned, but nerves ran high. But even before Air Force One landed, controversy was everywhere. Critics sharpened their knives, pundits speculated endlessly, and headlines screamed warnings. And the public braced for impact, glued to their screens, waiting for the next headline or viral moment. It was a high-wire act over a pit of angry badgers, and everyone was watching to see if the UK would stick the landing or get mauled. The tension was electric, the outcome uncertain. Spoiler, there was a lot of mauling. And as the dust settled, London wondered if it would ever truly recover from the spectacle. The UK's motivation for hosting Trump? One word: trade. With Brexit reshaping the nation's future, Britain urgently needed to secure new economic alliances to replace lost EU ties. Post-Brexit, Britain was desperate for new economic partners, and the US was the ultimate prize. American markets offered a lifeline, and a deal with Washington could help steady the UK's uncertain economy. Starmer's government hoped royal pageantry, guards, carriages, a banquet with the king, would charm Trump into a major trade deal. The spectacle was designed to impress, blending centuries of tradition with modern diplomacy. It was a gamble. Would history and tradition outweigh policy and unpredictability? Could the grandeur of the monarchy and the promise of partnership sway a famously unpredictable president? In May, a limited trade deal was signed, but the state visit was meant to seal something bigger. The UK hoped for a comprehensive agreement that would reshape its global standing. The public, however, was skeptical. Headlines questioned the wisdom of appeasing Trump, and protests erupted across London. Many wondered if the cost was too high. The infamous Trump baby blimp soared again, symbolizing public disdain. It became an icon of resistance, floating defiantly above the city. The media framed the visit as a test. Would Britain sacrifice dignity for a deal? Commentators debated whether the government's strategy was bold or simply desperate. Officials talked up the special relationship, but the world saw angry crowds and diplomatic pitfalls. The contrast between official optimism and public outrage was stark. The UK tried to host a sophisticated dinner party, but their guest of honor was known for throwing food. The atmosphere was tense, with every gesture scrutinized. And yes, it got messy. The world watched as Britain's high-stakes gamble played out in real time, with consequences that would echo far beyond the banquet hall. From the moment Trump landed on British soil, the air was thick with anticipation, and a hint of dread. He lived down to expectations, making it clear that subtlety and diplomacy were not on the agenda. His visit quickly became a whirlwind of off-script rants, unpredictable tweets, and diplomatic blunders that left aides scrambling. At a joint press conference, he ranted about NATO, suggesting, half joking, half serious, that countries should pay him directly for protection. On trade, he complained the May deal was unfair, and then, with characteristic bravado, hinted the UK should open up its beloved NHS to US companies, a political third rail that sent shockwaves through the British press. At the Buckingham Palace banquet, Trump made a bizarre joke about King Charles and Canada, leaving the room in awkward silence and guests exchanging nervous glances. The king smiled stoically, but discomfort radiated from every corner of the Grand Hall. Trump's behavior was less statesman, more reality TV star, creating headlines, not goodwill, and leaving the British tabloids with endless material. British hosts had hoped to charm a dealmaker. Instead, they got a hurricane at tea, with every protocol tested and every tradition upended. The visit became a live-action stress test of the so-called special relationship, exposing every crack and tension for the world to see. And through it all, Trump seemed determined to blow up the set, leaving everyone wondering what would happen next. While London braced for Trump, a new force emerged in Canada. Mark Carney, the former Bank of England governor, won Canada's April election, running on a platform of standing up to Trump's bullying. Carney wasted no time, publicly criticizing the UK's decision to host Trump, calling it a mistake. He backed his words with action, arranging for King Charles to open Canada's parliament, a historic first since 1977. The king, wearing Canadian medals, called himself King of Canada, subtly reinforcing Canadian sovereignty. The contrast was striking. The UK used the monarchy to appease Trump. Canada used it to assert independence. Carney played diplomatic chess, while the UK played checkers, and Trump knocked the pieces off the board. Carney wasn't just reacting, he was building a counter-narrative, positioning himself as a principled leader. The world took notice. The starkest Trump-Carney contrast came at a March economic summit in London. Trump, then president, delivered a rambling, grievance-filled speech, straying from his notes and making factually incorrect claims. The audience, economists and leaders, cringed as he turned a summit on stability into a campaign rally. Then Carney, still Canada's finance minister, took the stage. He delivered a sharp, insightful address on global economic challenges, using data and logic, not hyperbole. The room shifted. Carney captivated with clarity and vision. Media headlines declared Carney had outshined Trump. Social media exploded with "Gotcha Carney" leads, clips of Carney's eloquence beside Trump's word salad. Trump's appearance was seen as an embarrassment. Carney's, a triumph. He left London looking like a prime minister in waiting. The world saw the difference, intellect versus volume. Trump's disastrous summit set the stage for his September humiliation. His undiplomatic jokes and aggressive posturing alienated British hosts. UK officials, frustrated, watched their elaborate plans unravel. The tension peaked when Trump abruptly canceled his final press conference and left London early. The official excuse? Scheduling conflict. The diplomatic version of, "It's not you, it's me." Trump's early exit looked less like a power move, more like a retreat. Meanwhile, Carney's confident defiance and defense of Canadian sovereignty loomed large. The media painted Carney as the competent adult in North American politics. Trump left not with a trade deal, but with a bruised ego and a damaged reputation. The visit, meant as a triumph, ended in embarrassment. When the dust settled, the verdict was clear. Media across Europe called Trump's visit a fiasco and humiliation. The UK looked desperate, Trump, diplomatically inept. The only winner? Mark Carney, who wasn't even there. Carney leads trended worldwide, symbolizing competent leadership. Memes compared Carney's eloquence to Trump's rambling. For Trump, being upstaged by a Canadian he'd mocked was a bitter pill. The visit reinforced Trump's image as isolated and unpredictable, his America First approach backfiring on the world stage. Carney, meanwhile, was catapulted into the international spotlight as a respected leader. Trump's London trip, meant to showcase his greatness, became Carney's coming-out party. The lesson: on the world stage, substance outshines bluster.